I have a question for you. Do you want to live in fear? Does anyone really want to live in fear? I don't, and I'm going to guess that you don't. And if you don't, then this short video is for you. Because I want to cover something that seems to be peaking right now, given all the news of terrorism and Syrian refugees coming to different countries, especially coming to the US, and all the politics around all that. There's an awful lot of 24-hour news media coverage of terror and fear. And it's really what the media likes. They keep you glued by scaring you, and fear is part of the way in which they'll attract viewers and keep viewers there. And I want to talk a little bit about what we can do to take control of our psyches, of our minds. When it comes to all of this that's around us, you're going to hear it from people. You probably already, just like I am, you're seeing it online. People are posting their own fears and their own anger and hatred towards Syrian refugees, or toward whatever other groups it may be. It could be racial, religious, nationality, whatever it may be. People fear and hate the other group that they don't identify with, that they see as a threat. And you see that online in posts, you see that with your friends and your family, you see that with politicians, of course, presidential candidates, of course. Right now is November 21st, 2015. So it's fresh on the minds of everyone. The terror attacks in Paris that happened last week, the ongoing debate about refugees coming to the country from Syria that might bring terror with them. Well, I want to give you 4 things today that you can do specifically to take control and keep control of your mind and not give in to what is called xenophobia, the blanket fear and hatred of other groups. Now, evolution has taught us that being in groups is healthy, is safe. I mean, we as a human species, it made us survive, to be affiliated with a group, to be a part of a group, and to see our group as stronger, superior, and smarter than some other group, the outsiders. Now, xenophobia is born of that. It's born from not the fact that we separate into groups. That's not inherently a bad thing. Xenophobia is born when there's a threat introduced to the group that we associate with. So if there's an outside group that we perceive as a threat, whether it's real, actual, or imagined, that threat will make us inclined to want to protect our own, protect the in-group against the out-group. So it's natural that, it's somewhat natural that people are feeling this sense of fear of refugees coming to the country from the same country that terrorists are coming from right now, specifically Syria. We don't have to be so xenophobic against that whole entire population of people, 3 to 4 million, who are fleeing their country, given the actions of a few really bad apples. It would be akin to what I found in after 9/11 myself, when I was in a place where there was a couple guys that I overheard talking about wanting to call a cab, and the one guy said, if that guy in the cab, if the driver is wearing a turban, I'm going to beat I'm going to beat him down. And the other guy said, yeah, we're going to do that, yeah. And this was after 9/11, and it got me thinking, well, I should say something against that. And I wrote about it. And it was published in my local paper. And it was just a little bit of perspective. Because I mentioned in that article that in 1995, Timothy McVeigh created he committed a terrorist act against our own country in Oklahoma City by destroying the Alfred P. Murrah building, killing 168 people. And he was from Western New York. He was a white, male, Army vet, raised Christian, who committed a terrorist attack against the country, against the U.S. government. And I ask you this: how fair would it be If everybody in the world and even other parts of our country looked at Western New Yorkers or Army vets or Christians or just white males in general, they're all just like Timothy McVeigh, especially the Western New York part, because we tend to look at a country and say, these are where the terrorists came from. It must be their culture. It must be their religion. It must be their upbringing. It must be where they live. That's done this to them. That's all of these people must be in on this terror act because they're all from the same region. Well, are we all in Western New York in on the acts of one guy, Timothy McVeigh, because we're all from the same region? No. Just a little perspective I want to share with you there. To keep in mind that particularly people coming from Syria are not necessarily terrorists, in my opinion. And I hope you can see where I'm coming from. I hope you can agree. If not, that's fine. I still thank you for listening to this. Back to my original point of xenophobia and the 4 things that we can do to take charge of our thoughts and our feelings when it comes to all of this that's around us. It seems to be peaking. Not that xenophobia has never peaked before. It has throughout history. But right now it seems to be at a peak. I'll give you 4 suggestions that could help your psyche, keep you a little bit more mentally fit in the face of all this fear. One is to limit your media intake, your news, especially the TV news, the cable news, because it's all in your face constantly. Breaking news, more and more fear, more and more blood and guts, more and more murder and attacks. And it's ongoing, 24 hours a day. We want to stay informed, but you also want to make sure that it doesn't overwhelm your senses and overwhelm your psyche. I mean, it doesn't. Too much fear-mongering news media could really bring out more depression and anxiety within you, and it could even give you a feeling of hopelessness and helplessness and irrational fears. It feeds irrational fears. So limit the media intake. That's number 1. The second is to look into other people on your own to find facts from reliable sources. And if you find a source that you're doubting or you have more questions, find a new source. Don't just take what people give you, because the media and the politicians and just your friends and neighbors, they're going to give you their opinions, informed or not. Even my opinion here. Check out the facts. That goes for anything. I mean, we divide ourselves in the world in all kinds of groups, whether it's race, religion, community, whether it's fit versus unfit people, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, whether it's smart or not smart. I mean, whatever, educated, not educated, whatever you want to divide or associate yourself with, whatever group, it's okay to do that. But when xenophobia takes over, we start to discriminate against those of the other group, and to do that without finding the facts of that other group, to know what they really are about, what's really in what their situation's really like, is a disservice to us, and it keeps us limited in our thinking, in our minds. This third thing I can say, it goes for xenophobia against any group. I mean, if you're afraid of immigrants, or if you're afraid of another group of another race, or if you're afraid of another religion, or if you're afraid of people of another community, or if you have that kind of xenophobic inclination toward any group, put yourself in their situation for a minute and imagine you were one of them. How would you feel, and how would you think, and how would you want to be treated, and how would you treat others? It may help to get that perspective when you do that little mental exercise. And the 4th thing I would suggest is that we can do, that you and I could do to keep xenophobia at bay, is to just see everyone as an individual. Take people as individuals. When you meet somebody that is an individual, and learn about them, listen to them, find out, treat them like an individual rather than a stereotype, rather than, instead of acting out of the fear that you feel, set it aside and learn and listen first. Find out, treat people as individuals. Remind yourself that that's what you do, that we all are individuals. And I know you know this. But we got to remind ourselves sometimes, especially when we see fear all around us and people with their stereotypes and their blanket judgments and their xenophobia, we sometimes need to guard our minds against all this. We do have real threats in the world. I completely acknowledge that, and when actual threats happen, that's when we need to deal with those particular individual people, and we need to protect ourselves from those individual situations. That's clear, okay? I'm not disputing that at all. But my talk here is about protecting ourselves from being wrapped up in fear and living in a state of fear just because it seems like everyone else is going nuts with fear all around us and on the news media 24 hours a day. Keep a sane head and a strong mind. And I appreciate you watching this video. Have a happy Thanksgiving. It's coming up soon. Have a good night.